So we are here. This is a very first podcast for a good question, and we are here to explore on the take or a perspective on purpose of life according to Dalai Lama. So we have Subhash over here, and me and Subhash will be exploring on the purpose of life. And we have a multiple celebrities posted on our website with the different angles on purpose of life is, and we will be creating a series on that. Today we are starting with the very first podcast with the Dalai Lama takes. So welcome Subhash.
Thank you,
And
Jenish.
yeah, so Subhash, why good question? What is a good question according to you, and why?
Yeah, so there's a story behind a good question. So, if you allow me, I would like to begin with that story.
Sure.
So, I, you know, I think it has been almost 7 years now. So, 7 years ago, I used to travel a lot, in India and outside India. And during several of my adventures across the world, I met a lot of interesting people. And these interesting people gave me my world that I live today. And back then I used to look at as a difference, two different worlds. One world is of material world where I was doing business and running behind, all the numbers that I thought were important in my life. And then a world of what we also call as world of spirituality, where there is an inquiry about who I am and who what is the truth. And then in my journey, in having millions of questions that I really wanted to find the answers for, I came to this question: what is the meaning of life? And I started asking these questions to everyone I met. And one of the common response before they started giving the answer was, when I asked what is the meaning of life, they replied, good question.
True.
Right. So when they said good question, I was like, okay, what, this is something interesting. So when I decided that let me create a platform where I can meet more people like me who are in this journey and looking for meaning of life, and not just meaning of life, but very similar questions. I wanted to give it a name. And the name that stuck to me after asking a lot of questions was good question. So that is why it's good question.
It's really a good question, and actually, it's the only important question of the life. And it, how I don't know how, but it's very ironic that the question is a good question and the answer is really good, but there is no answer.
Yeah.
So please go ahead. Please go ahead with more information. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is one reason, and the perspective that I learned across, dealing with the question meaning of life was that meaning of life is a question that fundamentally has the power to answer all the questions that you're dealing in life. So, but one of the flaws that I found when talking to many people was that people have constructed very specific views and answers of meaning of life. And I saw a challenge in that is a lot of people, when they started inquiring about this question, they found some answer and they decided to get married to those answers. And I found that that is, I like I said, earlier, that, and like you said, that there is no actual answer to this question. But I found that if I can provide everybody at least an access, a platform where they can get all the answers related to meaning of life and very similar such questions in the future, will be, could be a great help. So at least, me or you or other people who are on good question can compare and see what all different answers are available. And then they are left with three choices. One, to choose one of those answer and get married to it and stay with it. The second is, by looking at all the answers, they may come up with their own answers. After introspecting, they say, you know what, I think this is the answer. And the third could be that they choose to live in the quest, neither create the answer nor choose the answer, but remain in the quest. So those are the three options where I see this platform is committed to providing that way and means where people can choose either, from these three.
True. Beautiful. I mean, it's really very, very, very nice initiative, to open up the dimension for everyone. There are many spiritual speakers who are struggling with the question, and they are just sticking with one answer to whom they are following or whatever they are reading or watching the videos. But actually this platform will provide you all the possible answers for the purpose of life is, what is the meaning of life is. And it will really help for spiritual speakers to explore their thoughts, their thinking level, and get the answers for themselves, and be with they can stay with their that answers for rest of their life. Yeah. So according to Dalai Lama, Subhas, we say that, I mean, there are Dalai Lama says that according to him, the purpose of life is to share, to live in happiness, and to help others. Correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Yeah, that is what, there are quotes around the internet and also on our site available
Yeah,
around it. Uh, so it's very interesting that, Dalai Lama talking about purpose of life and meaning of life is because the Buddhism itself has a very interesting approach towards the meaning of life. And, so I don't claim to be a Buddhist expert, but what I know about Buddhism is that the Buddhism is stuck around after we are born until the time we die. So it gives a very fantastic way of life in that dimension of period of time. So Dalai Lama take his take on meaning of life, saying that the meaning of life is to be happy and meaning of life is to help others. Uh, I come to the question: what is then happiness?
correct. That was my
Uh,
actually the next question was that how should we define the happiness?
yeah. So now if meaning of life is to be happy, how do we be happy and what is happiness?
Correct.
And so happiness itself is a you know such a question, what is happiness, that it can become a site of its own. So I mean, again, is my happiness that we are counting, and what makes me happy? And then there are people who can get happy when others are not happy, when they are, you know let's say, jealous of something. Or so in that case, would that still be, a meaning of life, that I'm being happy? So it's very tricky, what
Okay.
the meaning of life or what happiness is. But what I understand from being happy, okay, is it's taken or understood that being happy is also about spreading happiness. Right.
True.
So I think the message inside, the meaning of life is to be happy, is around more around spreading happiness, helping others, and making sure that we don't hurt others.
Correct.
So I doubt that it is the meaning of life, but it is a good message for the people to live, on that basis of life. So though I may disagree with his answers around, and that's my personal view around, life, meaning of life is to be happy. But I think it is a if people buy it and try to live that life, and do not even know what's meaning of life, it should be good. At least it will spread a lot of peace and happiness around the planet. So I really wish in this situation of war and so much hatred around the world, people buy into this message from Dalai Lama.
Correct. So I mean, see, there. I feel there is a trick in the answer, because when Dalai Lama says that the meaning of life is to be happy and to serve others, right? To help others. So when you are trying to be happy or you're trying to make others happy, there will be some set of persons or some set of audience who will get hurt. It's not that you can make everyone happy. So there is again that how should we handle such situation? I mean, how we should find the meaning in that point of time then?
Yeah, so I mean, it should be like I said initially that it is very tricky to really give the strong meaning to happiness. But what is important is that we agree on a simple definition. It cannot happen without a strong, simple definition. So, the simple definition around happiness could be that you intentionally do not do anything that hurts others.
Okay.
Okay. Now, hurting and getting hurt is different, right? Getting hurt is not intention based. You did something and that created an outcome to that they felt that it is hurt. But in your intention was to not hurt them and really help them.
Hmm.
So I think the focus here is on the intentions of individual.
Intention part.
Yeah. So if people have intentions to be helping people and not hurting people, I think that will get to the purpose. But again, not getting attached to the outcome.
Right.
So whatever is the outcome, we still try and keep focusing on our intention. What is our intention? What is our promise in this? And just stick to that. I think that will give the right action, right birth to the right actions.
Right. Great. Very nicely elaborated, Subhash. So intention is the key factor over here. So we have to be very clear about the what our intention should be while making others happy. While or
Yeah.
other.
So it's not about making others happy. It's about our intention is that we be happy and everybody else be happy. Now, whether they become happy is not in our hands.
Right.
And instead of deriving our actions from the outcome, whether they're happy, not happy, instead we just keep focusing on our intention. Our intention is to make them happy. So if we focus on our intention and keep doing what is required, technically they should be happy. But if they are not, it should still not bother us. And we keep going back and
Yeah, I
focusing on
mean,
our intentions.
it sounds very good. It sounds very practical, but while it comes to in practical terms, when you are living with the materialistic world, let's say you are living with a family, so whenever you do any action with your good intention, but the results are never in your favor, or in some other favor, or it may hurt or it may distract your family attentions. Like, I mean, they might get hurt for based on your actions. So my question is that how then you will find the happiness in that, because your family is disturbed. So how you
Yeah.
will find
So
the meaning of your life to be, as Dalai Lama says, that the meaning of life is to be happy and serve others, help others. So when you're living with your family or in a society, I mean, there are jobs, businesses, relationships. I mean, it's how you will find the meaning of life as a happiness to yourself. Like how you will make yourself happy while living in the society.
yeah. So see, one of the quote, if I remember correctly, and I think it comes from the Buddhist scriptures, is that happiness itself do not have any shape. It does not have any shape and form. Happiness is on the ground. It looks like end of suffering. When you stop suffering, you are happy. Okay. We need to really see what is making you suffer, right? So, like you said, somebody is living with a family, and then there is, dissatisfaction around the family, and the person, it's not that person is not happy. Okay. I mean, if we have to go with this quote, it's the other way around. It's because person is suffering, he is not happy. Okay. And we need to work on ending of suffering. The happiness will automatically come. Okay. Now, how does end of suffering look like? Okay. So what is that person suffering? That person is suffering maybe, the gap in the expectations of the family versus that person, right? So one way is that that person can be okay with that, gap, and say that, okay, whoever is in my family and is not happy, it's okay. They're not happy. So detaching from that expectation that they should be happy and they should not be bothering you for whatever they're bothering you. The second is that working on, towards that gap. So whatever is the gap, you take on that game and say, what, okay, this is the gap you see. Let's say, the father and son dealing with something. Then say, what, dad, you see that this is what I need to put together. So let me work on that, okay, and decide a time frame and do that. But there is no space for suffering. There's space for action. There is space for being okay with that, okay, but no space for suffering. Once the person understands that there is no space for suffering, right, the end of suffering will bring happiness. Now there are many ways to end the suffering. Detaching from the outcome, you know, not getting attached to new things in your life. If you're attached, detach. If you are not attached, don't make new attachments. Okay, and it's very, tricky. If I don't know how much time we have, but it's very tricky around creating an attachment and detachment world. So I think we can have a one podcast on that topic itself.
Sure, sure. Yes, we have to do, because this is also very crucial topic. It's all connected actually. It's all
Absolutely.
connected. Yeah. So yes.
So if the person is suffering, right, there will be no happiness. So it's like you are going to a tree, okay, and you're saying, where are the mangoes? You're going to a mango tree and it's like, where are the mangoes, right? But mango is an outcome of a lot of, work with the soil, with the water, okay, a lot of things that do not look like mango. So if you are a person who doesn't understand soil, who does not understand fertilizers, who does not understand the water, right, and you keep looking for a mango will not be there. So to understand happiness, you need to first understand what brings suffering. And if you can get hold of your hold on what causes suffering and work on those factors that do not look like happiness, that do not look like mangoes, right? Ultimately, what you will get is the happiness. And in my analogy, the mangoes. And it is just so magical. You look at the mango tree or any tree that gives fruits, it's like magic coming out. You are working with the soil, you are working with the water, you are working with fertilizers that none of them look like mango, and suddenly a mango appears,
Hmm.
right? So that's how beautiful it is. So a lot of people, they may be asking, oh, but how can this bring happiness? Well, this bring happiness because that is an outcome, the end of suffering.
Nice. So, but
Yeah,
Subhash, when we say that, speaking of detachment, when we say that we don't have to attach with the outcome and get detached. When you say it sounds very good in trees example, mangoes example, but what when it comes to human connections, they react. humans react, right, on based on the actions. So when we say that I am not attached with my family, or I will be detached as per per the outcome, how that maturity should become, like how we should bring that maturity of understanding that I am not attached, I am attached, but I am also detached over here. So that should not lead me to the suffering. Am I making any point over here?
Yeah, so I think we should also add the dynamics of what is the difference between attachment and commitment. I see a lot of people right now getting confused between the attachment and commitment. Okay, so attachment is always with the outcome. Okay, commitment is always to a cause. So you can be attached to your family, your mother, your father, whoever is in your family. You can be attached to, you can be, if you're attached to them, you will be attached on how they react. Okay, they're the outcome of part of it. And the commitment part of it is to a cause. Okay, so let's say you are committed for your father's health, right, or your family's health. Now that commitment is irrespective of the outcome. So if you are committed, you will be ongoingly taking steps to making sure that they remain on their health goals. But if you're attached, right, then if they kind of break down after a couple of weeks of efforts and stop doing, and then you see no improvement, and it's not working, then you will stop because you are attached to the outcome.
Okay.
So attachment and commitment is different.
Hmm.
So when
Correct.
I'm saying that you detach, I'm not asking you to detach from the person,
From the
or
outcome.
yeah, you will detach from the outcome.
Correct.
Okay, and replace that attachment with commitment.
Okay.
And when you're not attached, okay, there is no space for suffering. It is always joy
Right.
that brings you that happiness. It replaces that with joy, because now when you're being committed, how that commitment will look like. Okay, you're making them wake up early, you're making them go to sleep there, you're taking them to the exercise, you're motivating them. All those are actions. Now there is no suffering in them.
Hmm.
But suffering begins when you're like, oh, you missed three out of the two, two out of the three sessions. And then you start looking at the results and you're like, oh, the results are not as promised. And then all those, emotional and, things starts.
Hmm.
So remaining committed and replacing your attachment with commitment is the key to, really getting to the no suffering, and that ultimately resulting into happiness.
Okay. Correct. So finally we don't have to attach to the results and be attached with the commitment.
Yeah, I think that gives people a lot of sense of action, as well as what Dalai Lama said about helping others.
Yeah.
So one of the
Definitely.
human ways of finding happiness is when they're able to help others. So I think helping others is a great deed that anybody and everybody can do whenever they get a chance, and especially when they're not attached to the outcome, and they just do what they are supposed to do. It definitely gives them a sense of joy and sense of fulfillment, which results into an happiness. So it's I think uh, putting, as Dalai Lama puts, that it is the meaning of life is to be happy, and the meaning of life is to help others and not do things that hurt others. It's a great way of living life. And there are many other people who have different opinions, and
Yes,
we will talk about them in our upcoming podcast.
sure.
But this as meaning of life, if everybody gets, adopts this and even forgets about all the other ways of living life, I think
True.
I'll be happy because it will is going to bring a lot of happiness around the world.
Correct. Yes. Very nicely elaborated, Subhas. So the meaning of life is to be happy, not get attached with the outcome, and help others. So it's a very simple and straight line, to understand. Everyone can grasp it. But the meaning, what actual the words mean, that you don't have to attach. That is the most important thing everyone has to understand. Not attached to the outcome, not attached to the results.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think Dalai Lama is doing a great job spreading, happiness around the world, uh, and really reiterating this message with all the people around the world. So it is a very, great exercise that he does, and I just appreciate, the entire Buddhism practice of living with peace, living with harmony with the nature, and making the message spread across the world. So I really appreciate everything that Buddhist people and Dalai Lama do, and causing results around the world in different perspectives. They do a lot of also social projects, so it is
Yes.
very very inspiring, and especially their take on meaning of life. So if we ever get a chance to meet Dalai Lama, Jenish, I think you should definitely work on having this question directly to him,
Yeah,
and maybe
definitely.
go
Yes.
in conversation. I hope a good question reaches to that level where we can bring Dalai Lama on our podcast.
Yeah, definitely. We are, that would be a great honor, and it would be. I will actually. I will propose you should connect with Dalai Lama and speak on this, and we should have a podcast. And I want to actually watch the podcast, that how that podcast will look like, because two
Yeah,
giants are talking on the purpose of life, the meaning of life, which is very important message to spread all over the world to all the spiritual seekers. And yes, I mean, you have done a very, it's a very 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 great initiative of spreading the message all over the world by such a good platform. And yes, I mean, great work.
yeah. I just remember, while doing research on meaning of life across different personalities, what I have found is, and we should put that into the link, that there are actually different scientists. I don't remember the name as of now, but we can put that in the description. That these scientists actually, kind of have supported the answer from Dalai Lama, that this is actually the meaning of life. So, and it's a very pleasureful reading when you read the meaning of life. Question is not just a spiritual question, but it's also a scientific question, and
Correct. Yes.
absolutely, marvelous scientist, by like Hawkins. Uh, I mean, there's so many scientists right now. I would encourage people who are watching this, go on Good Question and look for different scientists, their favorite scientists, what their take is on meaning of life. It's amazing.
It's
It's really,
amazing.
really amazing.
Correct.
And we have entrepreneurs on there. We have scientists on there. We have regular people on there. I just interviewed one, one very young kid is into practice of ISKCON,
ISKCON.
and
Yes.
they worship Krishna, and I took his answer, and it was very remarkable. So we have artists, we have actors, we have bodybuilders, we have singers, we have comedians, we have entrepreneurs like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. So it's amazing. We have got a lot of TED Talk speakers who talk about meaning of life. And there are so many. I encourage people to go on TED and look for meaning of life videos. There's so many, and they're so The the beauty about that is that they're so different,
Yeah, so different. So
but everything makes sense.
everything makes
Everything
sense.
just makes
Yes,
everything makes sense. So
everything is
if
connected.
yeah, if you are watching it and listen, trying to understand it from your brain, you will find everything is so much, makes sense, and it just increases in your inquiry and with the intensity with which you are looking at the question of meaning of life. It's just amazing. I love all the answers.
So, to add on, I must say that I love when scientists connects his answer on meaning of life with spirituality. When science and spirituality mixes, when they merge it, the answer is very beautiful, and it shakes your mind like, oh man, we were not aware about this. How how this is possible? So it's really nice. And actually, there are few of the scientists. Actually, there are many scientists on our good question side, and they have given their answers, like they have articulated their answers on meaning of life according to the research they have done on science level, and they have mixed up with the, not mixed up, I would say they have connected with the spirituality. So it's really beautiful. Yes,
Yeah, at that level, I think the spirituality and science is like just one thing. Is two sides of the same coin, wherein people come together and really explore the same topic with different approaches, right? I
correct,
remember we have Neil deGrasse Tyson, if I'm pronouncing the name right.
correct.
He's an astrophysicist and a very popular TV host. He has
Yes,
hosted a lot of space related TV shows. He's got amazing answers on meaning of life,
correct.
and it's the way he looks at the question. It is it's amazing.
It's amazing. Yes,
So there's so much to really research and talk about on the meaning of life. I also see that the entire Buddhist way of living, and what I just also spoke about, living in harmony with the nature, okay, and not really harming the things around us to create space for humans, and really not caring about what other species and are getting hurt with what we are doing, is also one way to give meaning to the life.
correct,
And one perspective that I would like to bring in is that when we ask question meaning of life, a lot of people also take it as their personal life, right? And and I have found a lot of people see it as a question not just about their life, but life in general. So life in general is includes everything, all the living things, the trees, the animals, the insects, the birds are all around us. Like, what is the meaning of what is the meaning of life on this planet? Right? Why everything exists? So it the question changes its shapes uh, based on where you are standing and asking the question. If you're standing of being, who you are right now, and ask, okay, what is the meaning of my life? Or you can say, what is the meaning of life? It just changes the dimension at which you're asking the question.
correct.
And it is, the kind of answers we get from the people, and that, we have captured a lot of them on the Good Question website is amazing. So it gives me a lot of, pleasure, when I get a chance and I go through the answers that are put together there. And I also want to appreciate everybody at Good Question who is contributing to making this happen.
Yes, as you rightly said, it's very beautiful to know different angles and different standpoints on the meaning of life. It really broaden up, our thinking, our capacity of thinking, what we can go at, which level, at which extent we can take our thoughts to. So it's really good. I mean, yeah,
Yeah. And I would also, be looking at people who are listening to this podcast, uh, that maybe they do not have the question meaning of life right now. right? And they are actually dealing with other questions at the level of their spiritual journey. Maybe they're dealing with question, who am I? They're dealing with question, what is God? You know, they're dealing with question, why am I here? So all those questions, in my understanding, ultimately leads you to the question meaning of life. And a lot of questions that you have will merge into this question. So it is, this question is not just for the people who are right now inquiring this question in their life, but also people who are on their path to reach to this question. So while you're listening this, and even if you don't relate to this question about meaning of life, I will still encourage you to just keep this in back of your mind, and keep going and finding the answer that right now matters to you. And whenever you encounter the question meaning of life, just revise this, listen to the same podcast, or on our website or any other website, and get to know that. I think it will also give you pathways to look for the answers to the question that really matters to you right now.
It's all connected. This is a basic and the most important question of the life. I think this is the only question of the life we all should take serious about, and we should dedicatedly give a time to to search the answers. Although there are not a one answer, but still we have to go and take this route, and we have to keep finding the different answers and think on it, that what exactly it is the meaning of life is. So as you rightly said, that one should encounter this question and take it nicely, very nicely from the good question.
All right. Yes. So I think it has been a good discussion, and I really am looking forward to the next personality we are going to talk about.
Sure, Subhas. Yes, looking forward to. We'll come up with one more personality, and we have not decided yet on which personality we'll go for, but we'll decide it, and we'll have a one more podcast on this, and stay tuned there.
Yeah. And to everybody who is listening to this, if you came up with any other question that you think we can answer, please write that in the comment box, and we would be happy to either answer you directly if it is a small answer on the comment itself, or if we think it is a good topic for us to write a blog upon, we will write a completely full blog on our website and then send you the link so that we answer your question. And good question is about asking good question. Meaning of life is one question that we think we are putting the best of our energy to get all the answers possible, but we are not limited to that question. So if you think that we should add more questions on good question, please send us those questions, and we would be happy to include them, and look for a lot of other answers from a lot of different people, and bring you those answers for your consumption. Awesome. Thank you, Jenish. It was a pleasure and a long dream come true after this first podcast.
Thank you, Shubhas. Likewise.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.